Most companion planting advice online is nonsense. Because if you spend enough time online looking this stuff up, eventually you'll run into claims like basil makes tomatoes sweeter, certain plants hate other plants, marigolds magically stop all pests, and honestly a lot of it just doesn't hold up in the real world. Now before we get into this, I should probably mention that I actually wrote a best-selling book on companion planting a few years ago. And unlike a lot of companion planting information online, I wanted a book that focused on strategies that are actually grounded in real-world observation and science, not just gardening folklore that gets repeated over and over. So in this video, I want to go through the tomato companion plants that I think actually matter, the ones that genuinely help. Now let's start off with probably the most famous tomato pest of all time, the tomato hornworm. If you've ever gone out into the garden and found half your tomato plant missing overnight, that was probably a hornworm. These things are absolute machines. They blend in perfectly, they're huge, and a couple of them can strip leaves off a tomato plant shockingly fast. Now one of the best companion plants for helping reduce hornworm problems is basil. And no, not because basil magically makes tomatoes taste better. What basil can do, though, is help confuse pests. You see, the adult form of the tomato hornworm is a moth called the hawk moth, and that moth locates tomato plants largely by scent. Tomato plants have a very distinct smell. You know that smell when you brush against tomato leaves in the summertime? That strong green tomato scent? Well, pests use that too. And strongly scented plants, like basil, can help mask or disrupt that scent profile enough that the moth has a harder time locating the plant. Now, this is important. That doesn't mean basil makes your tomatoes immune to hornworms. This is where people get disappointed with companion planting sometimes. They expect one basil plant to somehow eliminate pests entirely. That's not what's happening. Companion planting is about reducing pressure, not creating perfection. And honestly, basil's worth planting around tomatoes anyway because it grows in similar conditions, it loves the heat, it's useful in the kitchen, and it fits naturally underneath tomato plants. Now, I did say that it's not perfection. However, I have grown basil plants around my tomatoes for the last 8 or so years, and I have not had a hornworm on my tomatoes in that amount of time. I did have hornworms on a tomato that was in a container in another area of the garden that wasn't planted with basil. So take that for what it's worth. I'm just saying I will never not grow basil around my tomatoes. Another thing that helps tremendously with hornworms is attracting beneficial insects. And one of your biggest allies you can have in the garden are parasitic wasps. Now before you panic, these are not the giant aggressive wasps flying around your barbecue. These are tiny beneficial insects that are harmless to humans. And they are incredible at their job. They lay eggs on hornworms, and the larvae actually eventually kill the hornworm naturally. If you've ever seen a tomato hornworm covered in little white rice-looking cocoons, that's parasitic wasps at work. And one of the best ways to attract those beneficial insects is with flowering plants from the carrot family. So things like dill, fennel, cilantro flowers, carrot flowers, parsley flowers, and Queen Anne's lace. The important part here for all those plants is the flower. Those tiny umbrella-shaped flowers are perfect landing pads and feeding stations for beneficial insects. This is one of the reasons I like letting certain herbs bolt in summer instead of pulling them out immediately. Once they flower, suddenly they become insect magnets. Now, while we're on the topic of flowers, let's talk about probably the most famous companion plant on Earth, and that would be marigolds. If you believe the internet, marigolds apparently solve every garden problem known to man. And honestly, I think marigolds are one of the most exaggerated companion plants out there. That doesn't mean they're useless. They absolutely can help attract pollinators and beneficial insects. And their strong scent, much like basil, can confuse pests. Some varieties can also help suppress certain nematodes in the soil, but people massively oversell them. Planting 2 marigolds next to a tomato cage is not going to suddenly stop every pest in your garden. Companion planting works best when it's part of an overall healthy garden system. Healthy soil, proper spacing, airflow, mulch, biodiversity, pollinator plants, and observation from you, the gardener. That's what makes the difference. It also takes a couple of seasons for this ecosystem to develop, not one magic flower in one magic summer. Now, one companion planting strategy that I think is genuinely underrated is trap cropping. And this is where you intentionally plant something pests like more than your tomatoes. And honestly, it works surprisingly well in some situations. A really good example is radishes. Flea beetles absolutely love radish leaves. If you've ever seen tiny little shotgun holes all through the leaves, that's usually flea beetle damage. And in many cases, they'll attack radishes before tomatoes. Now, unlike larger pests that travel further distances, flea beetles tend to stay fairly localized. So instead of planting trap crops far away, often you want them fairly close, sometimes even mixed in. And this is actually why I don't mind letting a few radishes flower around the garden. Not only can they help distract pests, but once they flower, they'll also attract beneficial insects. Another really interesting trap crop is nasturtiums. Aphids absolutely love nasturtiums. And I know that sounds like a bad thing, but sometimes that's exactly what you want. You'd rather have aphids swarming a nasturtium plant at the edge of the bed than coating your tomato plants. And nasturtiums are honestly just beautiful in a garden anyway. Now, speaking of aphids, let's talk about hoverflies. Hoverflies are one of the most beneficial insects you can attract into a tomato garden. The adults are excellent pollinators, but the larvae are the really impressive part. Hoverfly larvae feed on aphids, thrips, and other soft-bodied pests, and they can eat a shocking number of them. The problem is most gardeners don't even notice hoverflies because they look sort of like teeny tiny bees. One of the best plants for attracting them is sweet alyssum. And alyssum is honestly one of my favorite beneficial insect flowers because it flowers heavily, it's easy to grow, it stays pretty low, and beneficial insects absolutely cover it. Parsley flowers also help. Dill helps. Cilantro flowers help. The bigger point, though, is this. The more flowering diversity you have around your tomatoes, the more likely you are to attract predators and pollinators naturally. Now, another common tomato issue is spider mites, and spider mites are awful, especially once summer heat really kicks in. They're really tiny. Most people don't even notice them until the plant already looks really bad. And once they're there, they explode fast. Now again, strongly scented plants can help somewhat here. Things like garlic, onions, chives, green onions. These strong sulfur smells can make it harder for pests to locate the tomatoes. But honestly, one of the biggest things that helps prevent spider mites is reducing plant stress. Dry, dusty, stressed plants get hit harder. So while companion planting can help, proper watering and healthy plants matter a lot. And this is important because companion planting is often treated like the main thing, and usually it's a supporting thing. Your tomatoes still need sun, nutrients, airflow, consistent watering, pruning. Companion planting can assist those things. It doesn't replace them. Now let's move into disease pressure because this is where companion plants start overlapping with soil management and mulch system. One of the smartest things you can do around tomatoes is keep the soil covered. Bare soil creates all kinds of problems. Moisture swings, weed pressure, soil splashback, disease spread, and many tomato diseases spread upward from the soil during watering or rain. This is one reason mulch helps tomatoes so much. Now, some gardeners use living mulches or cover crops around tomatoes. Things like crimson clover, hairy vetch, low-growing legumes. These can protect the soil, reduce weeds, moderate soil temperature, can improve biology, it can add nitrogen to the soil, and sometimes help reduce disease pressure. Hairy vetch in particular has actually shown some pretty impressive results in trials involving tomato disease suppression. Now just make sure with cover crops, they can get aggressive if you don't keep on top of them or manage them properly. So when you see a cover crop like crimson clover, starting to flower, cut it down to the ground and leave all of the cuttings right there to decompose into the soil. You want to do it at that moment because if you let them go to flower and then those seeds in the flowers mature, you're going to have a big mess that's going to last for years. But if you cut them down right then, it adds benefit to the soil and you don't have to worry about the plants coming back. Now, there are also a few plants I generally avoid planting near tomatoes. Now, this isn't because certain plants hate other plants, and what not to plant next to someone, the lists are very small. For tomatoes, it's probably more important than most everything else. The biggest one is potatoes, because tomatoes and potatoes are in the same family, the nightshade family, which means they share a lot of the same diseases and pests. Most notably, blight. And potatoes usually get hit first. So when people plant tomatoes and potatoes right next to each other, sometimes disease pressure spreads more easily between them. Now, does that mean it's impossible to grow them together? No, people absolutely do it. But if you have the room, I think separating them is the smarter move. Another major one is black walnut trees. Black walnuts produce a compound called juglone that can suppress or damage certain plants, including tomatoes. And if somebody tells me my tomatoes always struggle in this one area and there's a black walnut nearby, that's immediately suspicious. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to say one more thing about companion planting in general. I think a lot of gardeners overcomplicate this topic because ultimately the best tomato companion planting strategy is usually building a healthier overall garden. More flowers, more herbs, more biodiversity, healthier soil, less bare ground, stronger plants, and better airflow. That's what really changes a garden. Companion planting absolutely helps stack the odds in your favor, but it by itself is not magic. And honestly, that's why I wanted my book, Companion Planting for Beginners, to focus on practical, science-based companion planting strategies that real gardeners can actually use, not just internet myths that sound nice on Pinterest. I'll link that book below. And click here for the best companion flowers to plant with your vegetables. I'll see you guys next time.